Hi, ladies. This is Dr. Melissa Rich, and you are listening to the Taking Care of Your Temple podcast. In this episode, we are going to talk about struggling with stress, and I have an awesome guest who I will introduce here in just a minute. And I just always kind of try to go through the objective of this podcast is to help women connect with God regularly, to use His grace, power, and strength to improve their emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual health. And there are 4 ways that we do this. I mean, I'm sure there are other ways as well, but what we're emphasizing here, one is to keep our focus on God. It's so easy to hear from God and then lose that focus because we get distracted by everything that's going on. So we have to keep bringing our focus back. The next thing is acknowledging that we are not enough on our own. We are not smart enough, capable enough, strong enough, whatever else it is, enough to do it by ourselves. And thank goodness we don't have to be. God is ready to help us as soon as we ask Him to do that. The next thing is to remind ourselves it's about progress, not perfection. I think as women, we tend to be really hard on ourselves. We want it to be perfect, and that's just not going to happen. And when we have that high of a standard, we make things even more stressful for ourselves. And the last thing is really being aware of and, when necessary, changing our thoughts, because the messages that we give to ourselves are powerful. They affect everything, how we think, how we feel, how we act. And so we need to be aware of those things. So the goal of this podcast is to give you all some really good tips, tools, techniques that will help you feel and function better on a regular basis. And again, as I said before, I have an awesome guest here today. Her name is Dr. Kari Barron. She owns It Is Well, and I am going to introduce her here in just a minute, let her talk about herself, and we're going to start off, as we always do, with a quick prayer. Lord, I just want to thank you for this time together. Thank you that Kari could join me. I just ask that you will bless the women who are listening to this podcast. I ask that we will really be able to give them something of value that will help them really improve their lives and function better for you. Thank you for your love, Lord. Amen. Okay, so Kari, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. Tell listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you got your training, because I think yours is something a little unusual that a lot of people aren't that familiar with.
So a naturopathic doctor is what I'm technically called.
Okay.
It is not a medical doctor. So a
Right.
lot of times people think I just use natural things, but I've been trained in medicine, but that's not so. I look at the way the body works and help people to work within God's design so that they can thrive. So most of the people that I talk to are women that are exhausted, emotionally spent, and tired of doctors not helping them get to where they want to go.
Yeah. And that's got to be stressful for them.
Yes.
Probably for their families as well.
Yes. Sometimes people are referring their mothers, their sisters, their daughters. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. So what kind of training did you have for this?
Well, it's kind of funny because there is a school that I went to for it, Trinity School of Natural Health, offered a naturopathic doctorate program. They do not offer it anymore.
Oh.
So I was kind of on the tail end of that. I've worked in the industry since 2009.
Yeah, you've been in it for a while.
Yeah. So I learned a lot about supplements and things like that. And then with going to Trinity, I fell in love with other aspects, not just supplements. And so I was able to incorporate different things like energy techniques, homeopathy, flower essences, detoxification programs, diet, things like that.
And I want to back up a little bit because the way you got into it was interesting because you were on a trip somewhere and you got sick and I remember bits and pieces of it.
So initially, when my husband and I went on our honeymoon,
that's right. Yeah,
we were, healthy young people. Well, not as young as some people, but we went on our honeymoon, and on the plane on the way back, I had a tickle in my throat, cough that got worse and worse, and ended up getting really sick for months. Antibiotics weren't working, round after round, nothing was working. And I asked the doctor if they could do a culture. And he said, just take the antibiotics or you'll die. And I thought, well, then this is not where I need to be at all anymore. So found out that acupuncture, herbs, vitamin C, acidophilus was what I needed. And I was less than a week later after starting that, after being sick for months, I was fine, 100%.
Wow.
And then about 5 months later, my husband got sick with an autoimmune condition.
Yeah, I remember that.
Almost killed him. He went from 175 pounds, could bench press 250, run 5 miles, go do, work hard all day in a physical kind of job, and then go dancing at night. And he couldn't pick up his head off a pillow, and he weighed 129 pounds and was disabled for an entire year.
And so that had to be terrifying.
It was. And back then, it was 27 years ago.
Yeah.
You didn't have information available. And so you had to know where to go. And
you couldn't just hop on the internet and find stuff. It wasn't.
You tried, but it was not easy.
Well, it wasn't as organized as it is now.
Correct. And everything that I was finding was trying to sell a product, which is what the internet is like now.
Yeah.
But there were not really the practitioner resources available. So it just put that kind of in my heart. And then after years of being a painting contractor, fell into working for a nutritional supplement company and fell in love with taking care of people with their health that way.
So how did your husband get better? I'm assuming you all did some research, or what happened? Well, I'm assuming your husband got better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He's almost 60 now, and he's actually lost some weight recently, and he's very excited, and he's very physically fit. Has problems just because of years of damaging his body working hard.
Yeah.
But we went to it's kind of a long story, but God put the right doctor in place at the right time. And it wasn't a doctor he was seeing. It was actually a companion doctor within the office that he was seeing another doctor. And he just got all the wheels rolling with the city that my husband was working with and saved his life and never got a penny from us. He never asked us for anything. Wow. He just served us.
He pointed you in the right direction.
Well, he actually went to the city my husband was working for and said, he's on disability until he gets better. This is a very serious disease. It's going to kill him if it doesn't get treated right away. Got the insurance company engaged. Wow. It was very bizarre circumstances.
It was God's intervention.
Oh, in such obvious ways. And then they saved him with drugs. And then one of the doctors gave him improper information and almost killed him with the drugs. And then he was on really high doses for about 2 years. And then it was 2009 when I started working for the supplement company because my husband was tired of me being a painting contractor and not having consistent income. So got a job, didn't love the whole concept of it, but I liked natural health. And he started using those supplements. And that's when his healing process really kicked in. He hasn't been on any of those medications since that point. And he was on medications off and on for 13 years.
Wow.
So it was really God taking those steps in the direction that he wanted us to go as a couple.
Yeah, I get that. So what type of, do you call them patients or clients?
Clients.
Clients. Okay. That mine are clients also, but I'm a PhD, so I didn't know what yours would be. So what types of clients do you usually see? What types of issues are they dealing with that you're able to provide help for?
Most of the time, it has to do more with people that are so overly stressed and exhausted that they just haven't been able to find any resolution with what they've been told. And a lot of them are the ones that are looking everywhere online, trying to find this and that, and they'll try this and it works for a little bit, and then they'll try that and it works for a little bit, but they haven't been able to find somebody to kind of guide them through what are the foundations to your health.
And it sounds like they're looking at it piece by piece. They're trying to fix their foot here, and then they're trying to look over here for this. And what I'm hearing, and I could be wrong, you're looking at it from a more holistic perspective anyway, the entire body and their emotions. I mean, that's more what you're looking at.
Completely holistic. So I don't separate a person's hand from the rest of their body.
Well, you can't, I don't think.
No. And it's funny, a lot of times people ask me, how do I gauge what I need to work on with someone? Yeah. And I look at their physical body. How are they sitting? How are they walking in? Do they have rings under their eyes?
Right.
Do they have really dark areas on the sides of the bridge of their nose? Are their fingernails looking healthy? Do you see the little moons on your fingernails and even their tongue? Like, God gives us all these little signals, and I talk to them a lot. And even ask the body questions. I can use muscle response testing for that, or even biofeedback. It's a mechanical way to do it. I prefer, honestly, doing the muscle response testing for first appointments just to kind of get things going. But yeah, biofeedback is something that I use too. So I use both machinery and myself and themselves.
And it sounds like you're trying to get as complete a picture as possible of your client to know what's going on so that you know how to help them.
Yes. And when we had talked earlier, we've been friends for a little while, and knowing that the emotional well-being of someone and the spiritual well-being of someone,
it's all impacted.
Intellectual, social, all of those are things that I take into consideration when I do recommendations for clients. I can't ignore them because those are more important, I think, than a lot of the physical. There's physical things that I call God's laws that you cannot break these laws. Like, you got to drink water, you got to eat healthy food, you got to get off your hiney and get out and do stuff.
You need to sleep.
But the same thing happens with the spiritual, like you were saying earlier with, how you were focusing on the spiritual for women to be able to get healthy.
Yes.
And it's not just emotional, spiritual health. It is physical health that goes along with it too.
Oh, yeah. When I was doing therapy, it's back years ago, I was a family therapist, and I would see couples or families, and that's just how I would do it. And I had friends who were therapists, and they would just see an individual. So I don't care about the rest of the family. I'm just concentrating on them. And I'm like, but how can you separate their issues from what's going on with the family that they live with? I mean, I couldn't understand, we're not just this one isolated thing. We're connected to all these other people. And that kind of sounds like what you're saying also. We are all interconnected.
Oh, yeah.
We're a bunch of interconnected systems. That's just kind of how it works.
Quantum physics.
Yeah.
We don't want to get into quantum physics quite yet, but it fascinates me because we are literally interconnected with every single person in the universe. And I think that's God's way of making us reliant on each other and on Him.
Yeah. So you've got someone who's coming to see you, Lisa Brown. I don't know who Lisa Brown is. We're making that up. But she is having all kinds of issues. She's not sleeping well. I don't know what typically issues you would have. How do you help them? I know you do an assessment. It doesn't sound like you prescribe a lot of medication.
I cannot prescribe medication.
Okay.
That is.
So you don't prescribe any medication?
No,
okay.
Never.
See, I can't either because I'm a PhD. I'm not a real doctor, I've been told. Yeah, we know what that is.
And you know what? I've been told that too. And I don't care if someone calls me a doctor or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter one bit to me.
Yeah. So what do you do? Do you prescribe lifestyle intervention changes? Do you give them training? I mean, what do you do? How do you help somebody?
It depends on the person.
Okay.
It's tremendously different for some people versus others, but everybody I work on foundations with first, because if you don't have a good foundation of getting enough water, getting the right food, eating at the right times, getting enough sleep, like all of those things that God put into our bodies to need on a regular basis, if you're not at least moving forward on that, I don't want to work with you. And that sounds kind of harsh, but if you aren't willing to make changes, how can you expect changes to be made?
That's one of the things I assess for too. And I'm sitting here laughing. You talk about water. I'm sitting here drinking from this big thing of water, and you've got yours there on the floor with you.
That's my second 32 ounces for the day, and it's early.
Yeah. I mean, I have mine with me all day, and I empty it out and I fill it back up again.
Yeah.
Because I found out a few years ago, this really kind of surprised me. I always knew that water would affect, if you don't have enough water, you can get dehydrated. It affects you physically. What I recently found out is that not enough water can create anxiety. So it affects you emotionally. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought that was so interesting. So so you assess for all
and
of the things.
I have clients that just refuse to drink enough water. And I'm like, you're not going to get over this emotional stress until you get enough water. And it has to literally do with our body is hydrogen powered and our brain is very hydrogen powered.
Yeah.
And you think about how the brain needs that electrical conductivity. Water is what does it, as well as the minerals in your brain. And so there is so much to water. There are two books that I absolutely love. You're Not Sick, You're Thirsty, and The Body's Many Cries for Water. So they're both written by Dr. Batman Jelage. But if you look up Batman and water online, Dr.
Yeah.
Batman and water, you will find all kinds of information. And he has, I want to say 45 things that the body does and how the body needs water.
That is so interesting.
45. Like, who would think that there were 45 reasons to be drinking water?
I wouldn't.
Blood sugar. People don't realize that when you're dehydrated, your blood sugar doesn't work.
Wow.
And high blood pressure and
that can have all kinds of
things.
Serious effects.
Yeah. And your brain is one of those areas. And I think a lot of times people are very stressed, since we were going to be discussing stress. If you do not have enough water, your brain can't function properly, and you will cause more stress in your body. It causes physical stress as well as emotional.
So you get into that negative cycle where you're not drinking enough water or taking care of yourself right, and so you're stressed. And then because you're not taking care of yourself, you get more stress, and it just keeps feeding on itself in a negative loop.
Right. And a lot of times people, when they aren't hydrated enough, and I'm going to, this is my little soapbox for water. You need water, H2O, not coffee, not tea, not soda, not juice, just plain water, sparkling water. To me, you've got all this carbon dioxide in there. Our body is trying to get rid of carbon dioxide. Well, why would you drink it and expect your body to be feeling happy? So just H2O, and most people, their minimum amount of water for the day would be half of their body weight in ounces of water. So if you weigh 150, 75 ounces is what you would need for the day as your minimum.
Okay.
If you work out a lot, or if you talk a lot, like we're talking a lot today, you need more water, because you're losing moisture with every word that you say. So, if you talk a lot, you need more water. If you are in a very dry climate, if you live in Arizona, you need more water. If you live in another area where there's more humidity, you don't. But having that minimum is one of the hardest things. And you don't just dive into 75 ounces if you've been drinking 16. You got to increase slowly.
You have to increase gradually.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll kill your kidneys.
Yep. So it sounds like obviously a lot of the clients that you see are stressed.
All of them are stressed.
So I mean,
that is just the way that life is anymore.
Yeah.
And stress isn't always bad, but if they're coming to see me because they've got health issues, it's bad stress.
Yeah. So what are some suggestions or tools that you give a client when they come in to see you, and you can tell, man, they really are stressed badly and they're having trouble functioning, which I'm sure some of your clients do. How do you get them started on a better path, let's say?
It depends on their stress.
Okay.
So sometimes it's physical stress.
Okay.
And like I said, we always want to start with foundations when it comes to physical things like water, food,
so you
all
do
that kind of thing.
The general foundational assessment.
And then we decide together what they're going to tackle. Some people can tackle a lot at once. Other people can only do one thing. So that is huge for me. I want to work with the client to make sure that I am doing what fits in with what they can actually do. I didn't realize that for a while. And then when I did a better job of that, I had better results with clients. So getting them on board, what can I do? What physically can take place? And then I also work with energy flow in the body.
Okay.
And I know that sounds very ooh-hooey.
But we have energy in our bodies.
Yeah.
That's
and we have
reality.
a circuit board of our bodies. So, you think about an electronic circuit board, it's made of silicon. Silicon's excellent at conducting electricity. Our circuit board is our nervous system, and you need silica for that nervous system, but you also need to have water. So getting, the right amount of minerals and the right water into your body is correct. And you can actually redirect energy in your body to help with stress. And I love using my hand as an illustration. And I wish you guys could be seeing this, but Melissa can see it.
I'll tell you.
Our 5 fingers actually represent different emotions that are indicative of negative emotions in our body. And they're all connected with specific organs. So our thumb, think about a baby sucking their thumb. They're worried that mom's not going to feed them. So worry is your thumb.
Okay.
And stomach and spleen are the organs that are connected with the thumb.
Yeah, because when you're worried, your stomach is all in knots.
Right.
That makes sense.
So if you literally hold your thumb, it's nothing spectacular.
Like with your
it's
other hand.
No death grip, Melissa.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
But you don't even have to hold it tightly. Like you can hold it like that.
Yeah.
Just having that electrical energy going from one hand to the other, you're actually supporting the energy of the stomach and spleen and helping with worry. And there have been times when having a hard time sleeping and I'm like, oh Lord, what's going on? Okay, what am I worried about? And I will hold my thumb and I'll think of scripture. So I don't worry about anything, pray about everything, everything, give thanks. So Lord, what am I worried about? Bring that to my heart, bring it to my mind, help me deal with this and give it to you. And then our index finger is fear.
Okay.
So you think about when you're scared, you point at something that you're scared of, or that's something that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And so fear is your kidney and bladder.
Okay.
And when you're fearful, you might pee a little.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking that. I was trying to think of a polite way to say it, but that's fine.
But I had a dog at one time. She was a Greater Swiss Mountain Dog, big 95-pound dog that got scared by a French poodle that weighed maybe 10 pounds and ran, and she had a streak of pee. Yeah. She was scared. So the bladder and the kidneys are your index finger. Middle finger, take a wild guess what that one is. It's not the number one sign that people will give you when you're driving and they're not happy with your driving.
Anger?
Anger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anger. And people go, really? And I'm like, yeah, anger. And then the liver and the gallbladder. So think about when you have used the gall of that person.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's easier to make that organ association, but it's easy to remember anger as that middle finger.
Okay.
Your ring finger is sadness. So thinking about crying when you're at a wedding.
Yeah.
So weddings, ring finger.
Right. I get that.
And the lungs and the large intestine.
Okay.
So the lungs, when you're crying a lot, you're all,
yeah.
Well, you're trying to get breath, and that's the sadness. And so if you're going through a time of tremendous grief, hold your ring finger. And it is amazing how it will calm you. And then your pinky is effort and striving. And the pinky is the heart. So you put your heart into something and you're having a hard time with it. Or the heart is in the small intestine. So if you're holding those different digits, and I actually have a sheet that I give clients when I think they need the extra information. I have two different sheets. One is just the information about stress and how to hold your fingers and use that to help deal with anxiety. But the other one has Bible verses for each one of the fingers. And if you need to kind of walk through it, you can do that because, fear not 365 times in the Bible.
Right.
The middle finger, don't let the sun go down on your wrath,
anger.
And you're angry because you're giving the devil a foothold. And a foothold means getting your foot in the door and going to come in. So dealing with anger when it comes up is important. Grief and sadness, the Lord says that he cares about it. And he cried himself.
He's close
Jesus
to the
cried.
brokenhearted.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then your pinky, cease striving and know that I am God.
Yep. Did you skip the index finger on the verse?
Fear not.
Oh, that was fear not.
Yeah. Index finger is fear not.
And what was the thumb was worry?
Don't worry about anything.
Okay.
Pray about everything.
Yeah. Got it.
And it's not like you have to have those specific verses.
I know,
but you kind of can work on emotional well-being, and you can be stressed in any of these aspects. It can be anger. It can be fear. It can be worry. Like stress can be, and it could be all of them. Which I've had times where I'm like going through all my fingers. I'm like, okay, I'm still not falling asleep. What else, Lord, do I need to do? And he'll just say, just spend a little time with me. It's okay.
Yeah. You can sleep later. Yeah. I get that.
But and a good way to kind of check this out is if you are singing in church someday and you're really just totally touched by the Spirit and you start crying because your body and mind are so open. Yeah. Hold the finger that you think you need to hold. Yeah. And I tend to hold the thumb and see that it really works. And you don't have to, it's not a big, look, I'm holding my thumb. I'm worried. Right. It's really just literally holding it. It can be in front of your body. It can be behind your body. If you're with someone that is stressing you out and you're angry, hold your middle finger. Don't show them the middle finger.
Yeah.
Hold the middle finger. And it's spectacular how God put this into our bodies.
Yeah.
And that helps with the electrical flow that brings that balance to the body, because we want that balance for all of the organs in the body and the emotions. You don't want to be overrun or out of balance, because that's where things go wrong.
Well, and I love, this is what is called a somatic technique. It's a bodily thing that you are doing, a physical thing that you're doing to your body to help yourself feel better. And it's very easy. It's similar to tapping or emotional freedom technique. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's a somatic therapy. EMDR, eye movement rapid desensitization, is another somatic therapy. And these are becoming more popular. It used to be therapy was just talk. That's all it was. Well, now they're finding that these somatic therapies are really helpful. So that's a good somatic technique, that whole hand thing. I like that.
And I had some education in teaching. I was at one point going to be a school teacher, and you have different types of learning, and it integrates the different types of learning when you verbally say something, when you're tactily and kinesthetically learning by holding your finger, and visually, if you want to look at your hand, you can do that and think about it. I like to use visual clues because I am a very visual person. And so thinking about pointing at fear, and as we're doing the podcast, I'm showing Melissa and she's like,
I'm nodding.
She's shaking her head, yes. But I am integrating all the three types of learning. You have a better result. So when you're doing therapy, having that option to integrate something that is another type of learning is going to provide a better result.
You know, one of the things that I believe, I've heard it, and, there's always different opinions, but I really do believe that stress can either cause or exacerbate a lot of conditions or diseases. What are your thoughts on that?
Amen. 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 Completely. Yeah. And stress it's funny. I've been reading, I got some new books recently. Every once in a while I go through a phase where I buy a whole bunch of books at once, and it takes me a while to go through them, but I'm reading Dr. Caroline Leaf. Have you read her books? I think this one is about retraining your brain. Anyway, but she loves the Lord, and every chapter starts with a verse, and then it has the scientific basis of how that verse applies to your life. And I felt very convicted the other day because of one thing that she was talking about. She was talking about multitasking. I am the queen of multitasking, and it's horrible for your brain. It trains your brain to be scrambled. And when you think you're good at multitasking, then you need to stop doing it. And it's very hard. I am realizing I'm working on it. We're all a work in progress, but retraining your brain by focusing on one thing at a time.
Yeah. And, I think there's different degrees of multitasking. When I'm at home, especially, I do multitask in that I have a load of laundry going. I'm stirring spaghetti sauce. I'm cooking that on the stove. But these are things that I'm like, they're kind of doing themselves. I'm not having
you're not literally washing the clothes at the same time you're stirring spaghetti. At least I hope not. That would be kind of close to the washing machine.
No, that would be bad. No, trust me, I'm not doing that. But so that type of thing, I think that we can all do. We can have something going on here, and then I check it, and then I come back to this. That's fine.
But it actually, if you're trying to do something with your brain during those times,
then you don't do it as well.
You don't do it as well.
No. Yeah, I've been convinced of that for years, that the whole multitasking is, it sounds good, but I don't think it saves any time, because I think when I really try to do that, a lot of times I end up having to go back and redo it because I didn't do it correctly.
Yeah. She uses in her book the whole concept of take every thought captive.
Yeah.
And when you take it captive, you're focusing on it, and you can focus on the Lord at the same time. When you are having a difficulty with it. And yesterday, I can't tell you how many times I stopped. I was about to do something else at the same time. Like if I'm waiting on hold to talk to somebody,
right,
or I have an appointment in a couple minutes, and then I'm like, oh, I can do this bank deposit now because I can do it on my phone, and then I can look this up. Oh my gosh, I am not getting as much done in a responsible way. And I don't want my brain to be scrambled. And I've noticed I feel more scrambled lately. So I got to really take into account what I need to pay attention to.
Yes. So what kinds of things do you find for yourself and then for your clients that cause them to be stressed or cause you to be stressed? What would you say?
Not giving stuff to the Lord.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That I think honestly, that is the biggest, because that can be a time management challenge. Are you asking the Lord? He's not going to tell you to do more in the day, like tell you have to do more in the day than you can possibly do. If it's emotional, dealing with a person, are you really letting God work in their heart and their mind? Are you letting him work in your mind? So, pretty much anything that you want to do, if you aren't first focusing on the Lord, you can't do any of it well.
Yeah. And
I might do it okay, but without having that causes that stress to multiply.
When I was younger, I used to be really bad about, I can do it myself. I don't want to bother God.
Oh, my first words were, it's okay, I do.
Yeah.
My mom lost her mind because I wouldn't let her feed me even when I was like, a year old. Because you trying to feed me, and I'm like, it's okay, I do. I've
got it, Mom.
I do.
Yeah.
And I've seen children like that, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Mom.
Well, I had enough falls and messed up enough that I realized years ago, I can do it by myself. And then I may have to go back and redo it 3 times, or I could just ask God to help me, or ask him, should I even be doing this? Mm-hmm. Which, is.
And what did he tell you?
Sometimes he would say no. And I'd be like, oh, well, okay then. But I've learned to listen a lot better too.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. If you're asking God, you better be ready to listen.
Yes, because he will not always answer the way that you would like him to.
And he's always a gentleman. He will never force anything on you.
Not.
And I think that's one of the most spectacular things about when you really read the Bible and how God works in our lives. It's up to us to make his place there for him to do his job.
We include him or we don't. It's up to us. As you say, he's not going to force his way in. Yeah. And at times I look back and I'm like, why didn't you force your way in? Why didn't you make me do this? Because I just went on my merry way and it did not turn out well.
Yeah. I have story after story about times when I had forced myself to, I was like, this is the way I want to go. And I prayed about it and asked Lord for something. And sometimes he gives you stuff as a joke. Yeah. And it's like, oh my gosh, why was that such a priority for me?
Yeah.
Was I not putting your will first? And that was the most evident thing. I wasn't putting the Lord first.
One of the things that I have discovered through the years is that doing it God's way is not always the quickest, the easiest, or the most direct, but it is the best.
Or most enjoyable in the process.
Yes, that's another one. It's not right.
Like I would never have chosen to have myself and my husband get very sick.
Oh yeah.
And go through all the stuff that we went through for me to be where I am right now. But I was never, when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be everything. I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a chef. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be
all the things.
So many different things. Yeah. And God has given me all of those things over time. They just look a lot different than what I had planned on. And they're in a lot different timing than I had ever anticipated. But I'm so thankful for every step of the way.
One of the things that I've been thankful for, you talked about.
And one more thing. The other thing that causes people stress.
Oh, yes.
They're not focusing on thankfulness.
Oh, gratitude is such a big one.
Huge.
Such a big one.
Are you giving it to the Lord and are you thanking him?
Yeah. One of the things that I am very thankful for, you talked about you wouldn't have chosen for you guys to be sick, to get this. God does not waste things.
Amen.
Even the worst things that we go through, if we give them to him, he can make something good come out of them. I think where we get stuck on that is that the good that can come out of it is not always the good that we would want. And I remember, I'll see if I can get through this without crying, when,
it's okay.
Gosh, this was like,
Use your fingers.
Yeah.
You start crying and you're sad about something.
I know.
And I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Hold the finger if you get emotional about it. But share your story, please.
This was probably about 25 years ago now. We ended up losing my nephew to I think it was viral meningitis. Is that the one that can be really deadly? That's really fast. I know there's 2 types of them. Anyway, he literally got sick and within 24 hours was gone. And he was like 11 years old. And it was really bad because I have 2 boys, and David and Joshua, and Matthew was right in the middle of them. They were like stair steps.
Oh.
And so, we got the call at 4:00 in the morning, which, is never a good thing. And they take him to the hospital and he wasn't responding and da-da-da. Well, they ended up losing him. And my sister and her husband, strong Christians, and they had the church service and really focused on Matthew and his life. I mean, he was a believer. He loved Jesus, and that was not a question at all. They knew where he was. But they chose to be very open with this loss, and it really moved the church that they were going to up several levels. And one of the things that happened is they had these neighbors who lived across the street from them, who I think were from Hawaii. And one of the guys was like 20. Matthew was like 11. And Matthew had really been trying to get him to come to church. I mean, Matthew would just witness to everybody. Oh, you need to come with me. And the guy, yeah, I'll go one day. I'll go one day. He went for Matthew's funeral and he became a Christian. And I think a lot of his family became Christians because of Matthew, because of his death and just all the stuff that it brought out. And so was that something that my sister and her husband would have chosen, to lose their child? No, probably not. But because they were willing to let God use that, I mean, really some amazing things happened. And again, I just think for us, a lot of times we're reluctant to do that because that's not the good that we want. So we struggle.
I can imagine how hard that would be. And I would never have chosen my husband to be sick for years.
No.
We didn't meet young. We met old. So all my friends were married almost by the time I met my husband. We're actually coming up on our anniversary of meeting at a New Year's Eve party. And he was almost 32 when we he was 32
wow. Okay.
And I was almost 30 because his birthday's in February, mine's in August. And having waited that long to get married and find the right guy, instead of marrying whoever came along,
right? And
then having him get so sick, and that I'm holding my ring finger
I know.
right
there
now.
You go.
Part of what I had to deal with when he got sick and was really, really sick, was, Lord, am I going to be a widow? And if I am, please help me honor you. And that was my prayer. I'm like, Lord, if you're going to take him, I know I can't do anything about it, but help me honor you through this process. And that was hard to pray, but it's what gave me stability.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a good prayer, but I'm sure that was a hard one.
Yeah. And it was constant. It was constant for months.
Right.
And God was so sweet at giving us little kisses on the head here and there and taking care of things in amazing ways. And my husband has the best sense of humor. And guys, that's the big deal, to be funny. Yes, you're funny. You are spectacular because you're funny.
Yep.
But that sense of humor makes a huge difference when you're going through those kinds of struggles. And especially when, the doctor told him to do something, and that's what almost killed him. And it wasn't what you would think, but it was,
right.
God was not mocked. He's not surprised at anything that goes on.
Thank goodness.
We have consequences to our actions.
Right.
But, I think a lot of the reason that my husband and I got sick had to do with mold in the house. And mold is much bigger now than it was back then, as far as people talking about it, being aware of it, and what it does to the body. So I wish I could say that I wouldn't repeat that, but I would say because of where we are, I would totally go through that again. But honestly, Melissa, you and I are not young.
No,
we're not in our 30s.
Yeah.
But when you look at things going on, I have clients that are so stressed about this or so stressed about that. And as we go through things and we conquer them and we go on and we see that we are more than conquerors through Christ, when you do face a struggle or a stressor, it is so much easier to let God take care of it and reframe, because you talk about reframing all the time. Every time I talk to you, and we both talk
positive
about
reframe.
Positive reframe. look at, okay, Lord, thank you for this circumstance. How is this going to work out? What do you want me to do? What's my responsibility? And thanking him for it in the struggle. We had some stuff happen recently. I was like, Lord, I don't know how you're going to work this out.
Yeah,
and
it's a big one.
But taking that time to just bring it to the Lord and try and reframe it. Oh my gosh. Instantly I felt this flood of peace come on me. And it doesn't happen all the time, and don't expect it to happen. But I was open to it, and I'm like, Lord, I'm stressed right now. I need you to calm the nerves and work through it. And he comes when we ask.
Yeah. And one of the things that I am absolutely convinced of and convicted of is that one of the best ways to calm stress is to praise him.
Amen.
Just to focus on that. I have learned that. I will pull up some of the songs that I love on YouTube and just sing along with them, but it does. It calms it. Okay. A couple of more questions. Do you think that we are always aware when we're stressed and how it's affecting us?
I think when we have been stressed for longer periods of time, we don't recognize it. And sometimes it's that escalating thing, kind of like the frog in the hot water. You put a frog in cold water and you turn the heat up slowly. Yeah. They're going to boil to death and they're not going to ever hop out because they're not recognizing that the temperature is changing.
And I think that happens to us when we're in stressful situations that are chronically stressed. We adapt, not necessarily in a good way.
And God made our bodies to adapt.
Yeah.
The adrenals and the whole mix of hormones, the way that they work in our body is so beautiful. I get so excited when I learn more new things about how the body functions. But, adrenaline is supposed to be for running from scary stuff.
Right.
Or running to something if we need to do that to get that adrenaline rush. But our bodies are so overwhelmed that I can say about 90 to 95% of the people that I interact with on a regular basis, their adrenals are thrashed because they've been pushed high for so long. And then that messes with blood sugar levels. Yeah. And then once the blood sugar levels are messed up, somebody gets on medication and, it just complicates factors. But I think we're all frogs and we don't pay attention to what's going on, and and that stress builds, and then you're in a bad situation. I have some people that I'm like, you just need to sleep and get 20 minutes of exercise, get good food and water. I mean, right now that's all your body can handle. Yeah. Then, then once we get some other things, some catch up, then we'll move forward. But I burn the candle at both ends and in the middle, and I pay for it.
I think that sometimes people do become, acclimated to all that stress, and it does become their normal. It's not a good one, but that's just what they're used to. And they just think, well, this is how it has to be, but it doesn't.
Yeah. And everything in life is choices.
Yeah.
And you choose how you take something emotionally. There are all kinds of stressors that come upon us, but it's how you handle them as to what that stressor does to your body.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you seen, does our stress or can our stress affect other people around us? And can other people's stress affect us?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. I was, I told you I just got these books. I was reading a book by Brene Brown, and then I'm reading the one from Caroline Leaf. And they're very different kind of books, but they can deal with certain things that are the same. One thing that I think it was Brene Brown that brought up is that when you are in a situation where things are escalating, if you bring escalation to that, you're never going to have resolution.
Because all you're going to do is going up,
perpetuating. Yeah. But if you bring calm to that, then the likelihood that you can calm the circumstances down is the same way. And we all have an energy field that surrounds our body. That's why when I said you can hold your finger, you can literally hold it out like this, where you're creating a tube with your fingers and you stick your finger in the middle and you're not touching it. You're still moving that energy.
Right.
Because like if someone had a burn, you don't want to touch that area, you can go around it. Yeah. Same thing happens with our bodies. And how many times have you walked into a room and there was someone there that was angry and you're like, ooh, something's not right here. I got a bad vibe. Yeah. Or walked into a room and there's somebody that you absolutely love there that you're drawn to. Or you're asleep as a mom and
Yeah.
you're like, open your eyes and your child's standing there.
Yes.
They didn't touch you.
Yeah.
But their
knew.
presence is knowledgeable because the energy fields go together, and it's God's design. It's nothing hooey or hokey. It's God's design that we are interconnected.
Yeah. I love that you said a while ago that things can escalate. We can escalate the situation, or we can go in and be calm. When I was working on my PhD at Texas Women's University, one of my professors, gosh, I just remembered his name, Dr. Glenn Jennings. I don't know if he's even still alive anymore, but he had this illustration that a lot of times when we get into this confrontational situation, it's like a ping pong game. And what people don't realize, you're swatting the stuff back and forth and back and forth. We always have the option to lay your paddle down on the table and walk away, and game is over.
I love that.
I do too. And I've remembered that for years, because he said,
I'm going to use
we
that.
think we just have to, we just have to keep hitting it back and forth. We don't.
Yeah.
We always have the option to put our paddle down, turn around and walk away, and the game is done.
So caveat with that, I am one of those persons that'll push buttons. And I'm much better now than I used to be. My husband is a walk away and ignore it. And I'm like, no.
Wait, get back here.
No, the thing is you don't just walk away. You address it and you interact.
Right.
But you don't perpetuate the situation.
You don't keep escalating the situation. Right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree.
And I love my husband. We both work at different levels when it comes to frustration, anger, things like that.
So what are some good ways that you tell your clients to lower their stress? They're totally stressed out. What can they do?
I do the fingers all the time.
That's a good one.
And I really get to know my clients.
Okay.
Do they have good family relationships? Do they have hobbies that they enjoy? Are they involved in gardening, or do they like to exercise
outside?
So it depends on the person. My husband and I hadn't been married very long, and he goes, "You need to go make something." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "You need to go make something. You're all tense." And I'm like, "Oh." And I had never thought of it that way, that creativity thing is really important to me, and I need to make stuff.
Yeah.
And it could be something fantastic and spectacular, like a big mural. It can be something really small, like making a fun something for dinner.
Yeah.
I need to use my creativity on a regular basis. So it depends on the person. Every time I tell them, hold their fingers. What emotion are you dealing with? Every time. And because it's so easy to do, and teach that to your children.
Right.
If you have a child that has a hard time with an organ of their body or an emotion, hold the fingers. If you're having a hard time with anger, hold your middle finger. Just do it.
Yeah.
And support it also with what you're doing habits wise. Are you eating healthy food? Are you drinking alcohol? If you're drinking alcohol and you're having liver problems, just stop. Just get away from that.
Yeah.
And don't eat junk food if you've got liver problems, if you're angry all the time.
Yeah.
And there are signs on your face that I can tell if someone's got liver problems. I'm looking at Melissa, and that's not where she has issues. This little line right here on my forehead, that's liver problems.
Yeah.
So I know that I need to be paying attention. And anger is not what everyone thinks anger is. Anger is frustration. It is impatience. It is unfulfilled desires.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
Depends on the person. And I try and talk them off the cliff a lot of times. And there are times when I said, do you need some counseling? And there are some great counselors in town. I actually had someone that I referred to you the other day. I don't know if they ever called you, but sometimes hypnosis is a great way to go.
Yeah.
It just depends on the person, and how they feel about what's going on and what the circumstances are. And physical stress, it affects your emotions. So you got to pay attention to the emotion and the physical stress. So don't eat junk. Fast, cheap, and easy is not what you want to be called, and you are what you eat. So don't go fast, cheap, and easy with your food.
I love that. Okay. Well, I'm going to step away from the microphone here for a minute, because you talked about creativity, and I'm a big one on that. And I have something for you.
Oh, are you okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
So
Oh, that's so cool. Little notes. notes.
Yeah. I just gave Kari something that this is my creative thing that I do several times a week, and it's rubber stamping or paper crafting. And I make greeting cards. And so I made a packet for Jennifer, and I made one for you as a thank you. Jennifer was here earlier for a podcast, but
so is Melissa's love language giving gifts?
Well, but it's creating. It's the creative process, and
but I'm talking about love language.
Yeah, it's one of them. Yeah,
it's so cute. I love it. I love it when people give me things that they've made because that's giving of themselves. And and being creative is
being creative. See, when I have found if I don't get into my craft room at least once a week for a few hours, I'm not a happy person. I wish
I had a few hours every week to do crafts. Oh my gosh.
When I make things, I feel better. I feel happier. It satisfies this creative part of me. So when you said that, I thought, oh, well, this is a good time to give that to you. But that is one way that I de-stress. That works for me.
And you discovered too with running in the morning.
Yes.
That was a big way for your body to de-stress. And that for me, it sounds silly, but I wake up 5:15, and as soon as I wake up, I go for a walk around, and I have about a 20-minute walk loop that I do every morning if it's not freezing cold or raining. And if I don't get that in, I know I have problems later on.
Yeah. And again, as you say, we are all different. When my mom was alive, she was like the world's best encourager. She wrote notes to everybody. So I would make cards and give them to her. And a couple of times I would say, well, Mom, why don't you come on? I'll show you how to do this. And, we can do them together. And she would look at me and say, I love to use them, but I don't want to make them. I'll just have you make them and give them to me. I was like, okay. And that was fine. And so she did. So that did not work for her. The whole creative thing for Mom was not a thing.
I love being creative. But doing paper art, this would probably drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But I do other kinds of things that are creative. And lately I've been doing a lot more being creative with food because I try to come up with recipes. Like I'll take a recipe and change it to help satisfy something that's going on with one of my clients.
Yeah.
So being creative in that way can be just another avenue. And I like being outside too. So I got some woodworking. I actually, on the way over here, I stopped at the hardware store and got some lumber for doing a project this weekend. So
yeah. Well, some general
depends
things.
on the person.
Yeah. That I tell people when they come in for anxiety or for stress, spend time outside. There's something about the natural light,
the sunshine, and get your feet on the ground if you can.
Yeah, yes. And I always tell them, not a concrete parking lot. That's not what I'm talking about. Green plants, water. I'm a beach girl. And that is one of the things I wish Waco had is a beach, and we don't. But
Woodway has a beach, but
I mean an ocean beach.
Yeah.
I walk on the beach and I literally feel myself de-stressing. I mean, my heart rate goes down, my breathing, everything. That's my happy place.
And you've never lived by the beach like I did.
Well, I lived for 4 years in Panama in the Canal Zone.
Oh, okay.
When it was the Canal Zone.
Forgot. Oh,
so yeah. So we did some growing up, but not as much. But yeah, so go outside if you're stressed. Do some exercising. That usually will help.
Exercise is one of the best things for reducing stress, blood pressure, all kinds of stuff.
Everything.
If everybody took 20 minutes a day, just even to walk, you would have so few people in the doctor's office. It's amazing. Just something so simple.
Yeah. Especially walking outside.
Yes.
It's a double benefit.
Yeah, no, I don't. I look at walking as only it's outside. Like if it's on a treadmill, if it's raining, okay.
Yeah.
Or if it's freezing cold, it's okay. But
otherwise,
outside.
No. Bundle up and go out. So again, watching the junk food, drinking more water.
No, you don't watch it. You don't want to be near enough that you can see it.
Yes. Reducing the amount of junk food that you eat. Eat healthy. Yeah, that's more what I want to say. Drink more water. What else are some other things that I tell people?
Getting to bed at a decent hour.
Getting enough
and
sleep.
Not be on your phone just before going to bed.
Yep. I always tell clients if they have trouble sleeping, because I do a fair amount of work with insomnia, turn off all electronics about an hour before bedtime. Dim the lights. Read a book. That's fine. Do a jigsaw puzzle. But don't be doing something electronic because your brain is just going bing, 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 bing,
And if they can make sure that all of their lights are not fluorescent.
Yes.
That is a
yes.
huge
Yep.
benefit too. Because there are some fluorescents that have a yellowish tinge to
Right.
it, but it's still flickering constantly.
Yeah.
You don't see it with your eyes, but
It doesn't help.
it strains your eyes.
Another thing that I recommend a lot, and now this works for me again because I'm an animal person, is having pets. I have 2 little dogs. We had 3, recently had to put one to sleep. But research shows, again, petting a dog or a cat, it lowers your blood pressure. It just makes you feel better. Again, if you don't have room for it, if you're not a pet person, that's fine. Also connecting with people, positive people. Some people are not helpful to connect with. They don't lower your stress, they add to it. So you have to figure out what's going to work for you and do those things that will help you feel better.
Right. And some people, when it's that connectivity with others, that can be a strain for them.
Yeah.
Depending on where they are emotionally. So you have to find your sweet spot, but everybody has those same things that God's immutable laws is what I call them.
Yeah.
You have to do those things.
When I was doing therapy, I remember a couple of times I would tell people, you may not need to spend as much time with your family or with this person because they are just dragging you down. Mm-hmm. And I never tell people, no, don't have anything to do with your family because, they're your family. But you can pull back some and give yourself permission to not answer the phone every time they call or, kind of limit the contact somewhat if they're going to be toxic. And there are toxic people out there.
Yeah.
Who make things worse. So a few things that I come up with, again, the messages that we give ourselves. I'm really big on helping people change their messages. So some ones that can help with stress. I claim God's help to help me manage the stress in my life in a positive, productive manner. And again, you say these things to yourself over and over, and they do change your mentality. I find positive, healthy, productive ways to relieve stress. And I love this one. I remember Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. Yep. Is that such a good one?
I that was my verse a couple of years ago, kind of for the entire years, just be still.
Because how often are we still? Not often.
I don't even lay still when I'm sleeping. I flip-flop constantly. So to be still and not just be still, but know that I am God and focusing on the Lord and asking him to speak to your heart is huge. And instead of affirmations, I have scripture that I give my clients that are affirmations because God provides everything in his word for us. And there's spectacular verses in there. And there are times I'm like, oh, I wish I could add that one. But, the list gets so long for somebody to go through them. So I kind of focus on different aspects of life. So, you were made with a purpose.
Yep.
Psalm 139 is a beautiful
I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
And his purpose, you have a purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times when we get stressed, we don't realize what God has created us for.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes we're stressed because we are fighting against what God's purpose is. He's told us what we need to be doing, and we don't want to do it. I have been there when I'm like, no, you really don't mean that. No, I'm sure that's not what you're trying to tell me. And let me just say that never ends well.
See, I'm always the one that gets mad at God, and then I'm yelling at him, and he speaks to me too clearly. And then I'm like, oh, like years ago when I was a painting contractor, I was doing a job and the clients were a pain in the neck. Horrible. I had to try these new products that I was not wanting because the client was all stuck on these certain things. Hired somebody that was a friend of mine who was expecting to spray cabinets because I'm not big on spraying. I'm a hands-on kind of person. So I had hired her to spray these cabinets and cabinet doors. I was working on the cabinets inside. And the amount of time that this job and the amount of effort and the energy that the husband in particular was just sucking out of me. I like nothing left. I was driving home one night so mad at God. I'm like, Lord, I'm not making any money on this job. It's not going well. I don't know if this is going to work. And, here I am. I hired Caroline and I stopped for a second to catch my breath to complain some more. And God said, it's not for you.
Ouch.
And I went, oh, she needed the money. And I'm given her the money. And that's, I was paying her, she was making her salary that I had told her she would make on it. And it was an hourly wage. And it was God saying, nope, it's not about you. Not about you at all. This is not your job. This is Caroline's job. And you were the conduit to get her the money that she needs for this new baby. And you're loving on her by making sure that she's not overdoing it and all the stuff that she had been doing. And I went, oh, okay. And then my heart changed instantly because it was so clear.
You shifted your perspective.
God shifted my perspective.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That was not a voluntary action.
You allowed him to, though.
Yeah. And I was talking to him about it. And he's, you don't have to be mad, scared of God. He's okay. Yeah. He can deal with it.
He can take your anger.
And I was giving him how I felt, bring our cares before the Lord. And it was so sweet. He's like, and he never yells at me. He was just very clearly and succinctly. And he has spoken into my life a number of times. And that was one that I will never forget. But the stress of having somebody that I'm employing, I'm trying to make sure this job gets done well. It was difficult people. And God said, it's not about you.
But I want to point out too, I've had those situations as well. And even though it's not about me, God can still teach me some things.
Oh, God taught me tons through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have learned.
So it's not like it's wasted is what I'm saying.
Oh, no. There's nothing that's wasted.
No.
At least I try and not waste anything. Yep. I'm sure there's something that's wasted, but it's
probably because I waste it though.
Yeah. I was going to say it's never wasted on God. And like you were saying earlier about things that you wouldn't go through if you had the choices. Yes. I have a very, very dear, sweet friend that went through a very unpleasant divorce. And I knew her personally from walking in the morning, and we had this amazing relationship, and we walked through things together with this, literally early morning walk.
Yeah.
And I said, God promises beauty out of ashes.
Oh yeah.
You're burnt.
I love that.
Now. You are ashes, but God doesn't say it's going to be okay. Okay is mediocre in my mind.
Yeah.
He says beauty out of ashes. And has God just created such a beautiful situation with this woman now? Oh. And she is not who she was before. And it's because she let God work through her, and she had a heart of thankfulness during the process. And I think, that's the key so much for stress is, where's your heart of thankfulness, and are you focusing on the Lord? And as easy it is to say that, it's harder to train your brain to go there.
Absolutely.
But reframing is one of those key things, and supporting your body with those positive affirmations, those Bible verses. Stick your face in God's word every single morning and pray.
Yes. And I have found, and just what you said, when I focus on my circumstances instead of what God is telling me, it's not good. I do get totally stressed out. I'm not fun to be around.
I was just watching The Chosen the other day, and not to be a spoiler, but the second episode, Jesus is talking to the disciples about going out 2 by 2, and they aren't supposed to bring anything with them that he's supposed to provide. And the looks on their faces were just, what? Like total stressors. And some of them on there are major stress cases. Their characters, the way that they've developed this character. But
I'd be like, wait, you mean I can't bring my purse? Are you kidding? No.
Could you imagine? Or
no.
don't bring an extra coat.
Yeah.
What if it gets really cold? Nope. God said, don't bring it. And he sees us grow when we become what he needs us to be, when we rely on him. And you can have all kinds of magical things that you think that you're doing, but just tapping into what God's given us is such a blessing. And the people around us, don't be scared to talk to others about your needs. That's one of the things that I discovered is really hard when you move to a new area, because it's only been 3 years since we moved from California to Texas.
Right.
And not having that easily accessible friendship.
Right.
And people that you can trust. That's hard.
That takes time to develop.
Yeah. And Christine Cohen's a friend of mine, and she always like, you need someone that can call you on your stuff.
Yeah.
And she says that all the time. You need to have an accountability person that will call you on your stuff. And redeveloping that at,
Right.
in my late 50s, not what I thought I was going to be doing. And I still have great friends in California, but that 2-hour time frame
Yeah.
is a big distance.
Yeah. I have a friend in California too. It does make it hard to find a time to be able to talk. Just to
like
connect.
they're off work and I'm, getting ready for bed sometimes. And so having those other people too, I think is, when you are stressed, if there is somebody that you can rely on.
That's a huge thing. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap things up here. Kari, if people want to follow you, find out more about you, contact you, how do they do that? Do you have a website? Are you on social media?
I have a website. I'm on social media. I actually have a phone too.
Okay.
So you can go to itiswell.biz, B-I-Z. It's a little different, but.
And you have to give your little tagline. If you're feeling.
I kind of changed that.
Oh,
but
did you?
If you're feeling crappy, I want you to be happy.
Yeah.
We'll get you to happy. But I decided I'd rather focus on working in God's design so you can thrive.
Oh, I like that. I like both of them.
I think that's crappy and happy is more catchy, but God's design is where I want my focus.
Okay.
But I can be found online on itiswell.biz, and I have It Is Well Waco on Facebook and It Is Well in Waco on Instagram. So they discontinued my page at one point and never gave me a reason, so I had to add the in there. And my phone number is 254-252-2574. You can find that on the website too. And there's blog pages on there. I am doing third Thursday of every month, I'm doing a free webinar.
Oh, good.
So make sure you sign up for that. The one that I'm doing tomorrow night, which is, it'll be after the recording will be out later.
Yeah.
But, it is on anxiety and exhaustion and how they're connected.
Are those
and
recorded?
What we can do.
So if they get this later, can they go back and find that or no?
They will be recorded, but if they do it, if they sign up for my webinar, that recording's available for a couple of weeks. It's not available indefinitely. But I will be making those available. Yeah. I'm going to do little packages.
Yeah. Nice.
So that you have tools to use when you're, when you are going through different
And if you haven't done one, you need to do a video on the hand, on the finger.
I've done that one.
Okay, good. That's a good one.
I've done the video on the hand thing. It's not a great one. I need to redo it, but
okay.
The hand thing is one of those key tools for me when it comes to stress.
What's easy to remember? You can teach it to kids.
Well, I actually had someone ask me for more cards one time because what I did is I did it at the Women of Waco networking group as a presentation.
We're both in that group together. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how I met you, is through Women of Waco.
Women of Waco, yeah.
And I handed out the cards and I had people, like, all the cards were gone when I went to kind of check the tables and clean up my stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is good. And I had people that had grabbed a few of them because they wanted to give it to their adult children, and some that were younger wanted to teach their little kids.
Yeah,
so that they had a little card to put in their backpack if they're, having problems at school, so that they could remind themselves. So God's beautiful tools. We just got to tap into them.
Love it. Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up here in just a second. And one of the things I always do on the podcast is I give a fun, interesting, or unusual fact about Waco, because I love Waco. I've been here. You've been here 3 years, you said? Mm-hmm. I've been here for about 8 years. And Waco is the home of Baylor University, and I love the fact it is one of the few universities in the country that actually has a river flowing through the middle of the campus. The Brazos River cuts right through Baylor, and it's absolutely beautiful. You've been to the Baylor campus. Well, we go there for Women of Waco. Duh. Yeah. But it's gorgeous. You see students running or walking, people walking their dogs. It is absolutely gorgeous. You can rent a boat. You can go paddling, take a water tour. When they have the Ironman in Waco, it includes a 1.2-mile swim in the Brazos, and it's near the Baylor campus. I knew someone who competed this year, and I told her I would be afraid to swim in the Brazos because there might be snakes in the water. And she just immediately said, "Oh, there's so many of us swimming that we just scare the snakes away." I was like, okay, that's probably true, but not really reassuring. Anyway, Baylor has a beautiful campus. Brazos River is gorgeous. It keeps going down, and there's restaurants on it, and just all kinds of fun things. So,
and the hiking trails in Cameron Park run right along the Brazos. So that's a sweet thing to be able to do too.
It is gorgeous. So that's a fun fact about Waco. And that concludes our podcast on struggling with stress, which we all do at times. Kari, I want to thank you so much for being a guest. I enjoyed your input and definitely will have you back in the future. And ladies, I hope that this was helpful for you all. And just remember to take good care of your temple. Bye.